Mr. Goffman, thank you for your testimony. Antonia, thank you for being here. I could barely see your lips move as he spoke. But thank you. In the military, I spent a few years of my life, a lot of years of my life in the Navy, and we always used to say that the spouse of the member in uniform, the spouse of that person, serves our country as well. So we thank you for your service and for sharing with us your husband. And if your daughters, is it Gabrielle and is it Genevieve and is it Olivia, if they're watching, thanks for sharing your dad. Now we're ready to ask questions of our witness. And Senator Capito and I have agreed to 2 5-minute rounds of questions with additional rounds at the question and discretion of the chair. To begin with this, as Mr. Goffman will recall, this committee has 3 standing yes or no questions that we ask of all nominees who appear before us. So I'd like to ask you these questions. Question: do you agree, if confirmed, to appear before you leave? Let me just ask a question of Senator Bozeman. Senator Bozeman, before you leave, a question of you. Was there recently a primary held in your state in Alabama? And I understand, as of about 10:05 last night, there was some good news. What was reported?
That I won my primary.
You won your primary. That's right. Congratulations. We're happy for you and for your state. Thank you.
And that's one of your supporters.
Senator Inhofe said one of Senator Bozeman's strongest supporters was Senator Inhofe's daughter. All right. The apple didn't fall far from the tree, Jim, I guess. All right. Question. Here's the first question. Do you agree, if confirmed, to appear before this committee or designated members of this committee and other appropriate committees of the Congress and provide information subject to appropriate and necessary security protections with respect to your responsibilities? Do you? Second question, do you agree to ensure that testimony, briefings, documents, and electronic and other forms of communication and information are provided to this committee and its staff and other appropriate committees in a timely manner? Do you?
Yes, I do.
All right. My third and last question, do you know of any matters which you may or may not have disclosed that might place you in a conflict of interest if you are confirmed?
No.
All right, good. All right, my first question, this deals with the AIM Act. You mentioned the AIM Act and hydrofluorocarbons in your statement. And the President, and that's something that we've worked on a lot in this committee, as you know, care a lot about. And it's still playing out, I think, in the Foreign Relations Committee in the form of the Kigali Amendment. In President Biden's fiscal year 2023 budget, I was especially pleased to see that $35 million for the implementation of the Bipartisan American Innovation and Manufacturing Act, also known as the AIM Act, which is led through Congress by Senator Kennedy and myself. That is Senator John Neely Kennedy of Louisiana and myself. And as you know, the AIM Act phases down hydrofluorocarbons, or HFCs, which are super climate pollutants currently found in refrigerators, in air conditioning, and other household items. Moving toward the climate-safe, American-made alternatives will create billions in economic growth and real American jobs. The AIM Act is great for our climate and our economy. I applaud the work of you and your EPA team in implementing the AIM Act in a timely manner. So here's my question. If confirmed, under your leadership, how will EPA use the budgeted AIM Act investments in implementation and enforcement? And why are these investments important for American businesses as well as for our environment? Go right ahead.
Thank you for that question, Senator, because it gives me an opportunity to repeat what I said in my testimony. The bipartisan leadership that this committee and Congress showed in enacting the AIM Act really was inspirational. And that's in part because the AIM Act was a classic win-win. As you already pointed out, Senator Carper, reducing HFCs addresses a very potent climate change pollutant. At the same time, it's a policy that promotes innovation in our industry of the kind that is instrumental to economic growth. So we at EPA take very seriously, completely seriously, our duty to carry out and reach both of those objectives. What we think our resources would be most useful doing is threefold. First, continuing to implement the program as required on time and on schedule to achieve the phase downs mandated by the Act. Second, to use a powerful tool that you all gave us to help promote beyond the phase down the accelerated transfer from current technologies to new technologies. And we've already started to do that by granting nearly a dozen petitions to make just those changes. And finally, it's critical that we have the resources to enforce compliance with the Act. As it turns out, looking at the experience that other countries who have put similar programs in place have already had, we're in the process of making HFCs scarce. Therefore, we're making them valuable. Therefore, we're creating an incentive for people to import them or companies to import them illegally. And we have to put in a lot of sweat equity in order to deal with, deter, and prevent those illegal imports. I have the privilege of co-chairing the HFC task force with DHS and Customs and Border Patrol, and we've set up a program at all of our ports to stop the illegal importation of HFCs. That's, again, critical to both objectives of the legislation, the environmental objective and the technology innovation objective. And that's why having resources for this program is so important to fulfill the objectives that Congress created in this legislation.
Good. Keep that up. The second question, the U.S. transportation sector is responsible for about a third of our country's climate change emissions, as you know. Good news is that we have U.S. technology that can dramatically reduce these emissions in a way that also slashes consumer costs at the pump. In December of last year, in part under your leadership, EPA finalized its new greenhouse gas emission standards for passenger cars and light trucks for model years 2023 through 2026. These standards will help set the stage for future emission standards under the Clean Air Act for model years 2027 and beyond, and help transition us to a zero emissions future. Question: would you please take a moment to describe how the vehicle emission standards your team finalized last year will reduce greenhouse gas emissions while also providing adequate lead time for manufacturers to comply, saving consumers money at the pump, and reducing overall demand for gasoline? All we put those together, it's like a it's like a win-win-win situation. Please proceed.
Thank you for that question, Senator Carper. I can maybe add another win to the list.
Go right ahead.
Because what that rule does is, as you say, set ambitious emission standards for tailpipe of automobiles. In fact, in the last year of the standards, that is model year 26, we've put on the books the most ambitious greenhouse gas tailpipe emission standards ever. What that does is provide not only significant climate benefits and air quality benefits, but it also means that to operate a motor vehicle that meets these requirements or these standards, drivers will be able to pay less at the pump because the vehicles will use gasoline more efficiently. And some of those vehicles, if consumers opt to buy them, will be electric vehicles, liberating them, if you will, from the turmoil that we're seeing in global oil markets and the horrendous prices people are paying just to fill up their cars now. At the same time, Senator, this standard is aligned with the investment strategies that many of our auto manufacturers are already pursuing, which is to build out new car fleets that not only include or offer internal combustion engines that are highly efficient, but also electric vehicles. So what I think we've done with this set of standards is provide our auto manufacturers with the kind of certainty and clarity to support investment strategies that they are already undertaking.
All right, thanks very much. Senator Kaplan.